Welcome to Beyond the Walls podcast. I'm your host, Kylie, and I want to share through personal experience and life lessons learned about personal walls that I have overcome and overcoming still, and to give you hope and tools to go beyond your walls too. Let's get started. Insecurity is something that is so natural to us, just like breathing. Not much effort has to be made to make us feel insecure, right? We often have these thoughts of doubt cast on us from others, but especially ourselves. We can feel less than, not good enough. We feel exposed and vulnerable to being hurt or shamed. We fear failure and not measuring up. I don't think it matters what environment you grew up in, whether it was abusive and condemning or if it was safe and supportive. I think each of us have the same challenge. We're each exposed to wrestling with our own identity and our value, which really is at the root of our insecurity. Are you worthy? Are you lovable? Are you enough? I think it's one of those areas of life that is just unavoidable to our human nature. That as we go from a dependent child to an independent adult, we have to find our way in the world, our own voice, our own purpose. When I was a teen, man, I remember being so insecure. I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to stand out for good reasons. I didn't want to stand out for bad reasons. I didn't want to be with all the popular kids, but I didn't want to be like a complete reject either. I wanted to toe the line of basic, safe, small. I wanted to be present, but not too present. I think even at that early age, I was looking to my peers to be my gauge. I wanted to stand out like the pretty popular girls. I wanted the guys' attention and approval, but I didn't want to actually be friends with them. I just wanted them to know that I existed and to like me, to tell me that I was pretty and worth their time. But I think some of the problem at the root was that I didn't feel like I had anything to offer. I didn't want anything beyond that surface acceptance. And I think about that time, I believed that if they just accepted my surface, then that's all I needed because I just really didn't believe that I had anything. I wasn't worth it. I didn't have anything to offer. I didn't have anything to bring to the table. It was all in everybody else's hands and their court to give me my purpose and my meaning. And this definitely got me into some really bad situations. Looking back on those early teen years, I can see now that I was in a perfect spot to be taken advantage of by an older family friend. He started to give me attention. He was curious about me. He wanted to know about me and he pursued me. Who was I felt, to deserve his attention? Who was I to turn it away? You can hear my full story. I'm not going to go into it in this episode, in episode 7. But from this starting point of being someone who didn't believe in my own personal value, I wasn't owning my voice in life. I was feeling less than. I felt undeserving of being considered and respected. I can imagine the people around me at that time not believing that of me at all. Having a young teen myself and seeing her wrestle with her self-worth is so painful when you can so clearly see their value. It's so challenging to see all of the greatness in somebody else, but to watch them not accept it for themselves. When you look out at the people around you that you admire and you see their worth, you see their value, you see the good that they bring into this world, how they light up a room, when you can see their individuality as strength and dream big dreams for them, but they don't believe it, man, don't you wish you could just like shake them and say, snap out of it? You're so amazing. If only you would just believe it. So put yourself in those shoes now. How have you been treating yourself? What have you been believing about yourself? Who has been cheering you on and trying to help you see your worth, but you have been unwilling to believe it? And even worse, who has been feeding you those awful lies that you have chosen to believe? I'm so sorry for those of you that have had the people closest in your life who should have been your biggest cheerleaders, but ended up being your biggest accusers. But my hope for all of you is that no matter what others have said about you, whether they have been for you or against you, the only one that really counts is what you believe about it. Ultimately, the power and the truth of what you are willing to believe is in you. So if you've had all of those naysayers in your life, you don't have to believe them. But when we are looking to others for our value, the good and the bad, prove it, disprove it, we will remain insecure. We will just need more reminders. It will never be enough. I remember a season where I was so conflicted with this. I had just gotten engaged to Lee. So clearly, my soon to be husband loved me, wanted me, valued me. He believed a lot of great things about me. But at the same time, I had a woman in my life who felt the complete opposite. I was torn down by her. She criticized me. She talked down to me. She rejected me. Basically the exact opposite of how Lee kept telling me how he was feeling about me. And I remember just thinking, who was telling me the truth? How can I be so hated and so loved at the same time? In this season, I had to make some decisions. I had to look inward and take back that power from other people and decide for myself, who was I going to believe? I also chose to look to the creator of the universe, the one who knows me the most, who knit me together, who created me with value and worthiness of life, the one who knows all my strengths and my weaknesses, who sees the good, the bad, and the ugly. If anyone really gets to have a say on this matter, it's him and him alone. But until I was willing to choose to accept it, to believe it because that's what he says, I was going to keep looking to others to find myself. Others, mind you, who are fickle, who have their own issues and their own insecurities, and who are not consistent. They're not stable. You have your own emotional roller coasters of feelings. You have your own doubts and your own fears all the time. And so does everybody else. What an unstable environment to keep looking outward to keep us afloat. We can't allow our value and our life to be placed in the hands of this world. This world is way too hostile and unstable to be a consistent measuring stick. I like to think of people's opinions and their blessings and their approval of us is just the extra topping. It's the icing on the cake, the whipped cream on your mocha. It's just the bonus, it's the sprinkles. So, what have you been basing your value on? Where are you looking for approval? My hope for you today is that you would be willing to take on a new conviction to treat insecurity as the life robbing threat that it is. That you would not beat yourself up more when the doubts and the fears come, but that you would start to recognize it for what it is. Be offended by it, call it out, label it, and shut it down. Don't allow it to rob you and hold you back anymore. There's three things I want you to really know that we miss out on when we give into this insecurity and a lie that we believe. And so here's three truths. That one, you have a purpose and a story that only you can share. When we give into the insecurities, we hide. The world misses out on something incredible that only you can do. Someone out there needs you. They need to hear your story. They need to share in your victory. They need to learn from your pain, to be encouraged by your courage. The second thing is that we aren't alone. When we give in to those insecurities, it makes us feel isolated. We start to feel like we're the only ones that are struggling, that no one else would understand. But the truth is that we are all wrestling with something. It might not show up the same way, but at the root, we are all wrestling with the same question. and the same desire to be loved and accepted. The third truth is that we want, we need, we can have connection with others. When we're so worried about how we show up, we spend our time just one, hiding from ourselves, and two, not getting to know others. I wonder how many opportunities or friendships have I let slip by through my hands because I was too afraid to show up in the world, too afraid of possible rejection that I missed out on the possible acceptance. A friend was sharing the other day about how opposite her and her husband were whenever they would go places and they would enter the room. She at this time was so insecure and so much more focused on the fear of rejection, how she wasn't good enough, how she didn't have what she needed to have any value and to take up space. But her husband entered rooms looking for ways to serve. He was looking for ways to help other people and to meet their needs. When we're focused on ourselves, we don't have any time or energy to look at the other people. Who are you trying to serve? Who are you trying to encourage? Who are you trying to build up and to bring joy to? I remember hearing once as a teen to consider that most likely I'm the only one being so critical on myself, right? Like I'm so consumed and worried and judging the way that I look or what I'm wearing or what I'm doing, how I'm going to sound. But the reality is as just like I'm spending all that time focused and worried about myself, nobody else is thinking about me because they're also just as consumed with themselves. So what are we so worried about? I think another reason why insecurity is such a bold-faced lie is because it makes us focus so much on ourselves, so much on our lack that we can't even see any of the good. We miss out on everyone else. We become the center of it all, but not in a good way. I'm not sure it's ever good to be having the center of attention on us at all times. So maybe the place to start is to stop looking outward for our purpose and our approval. When we're looking out, we look for ways to give, not to prove ourselves. If you aren't sure about the whole God thing, then reach out. Let's talk about it. Let's get curious about it. I want you to consider, is it possible that you are saying that God said something about you that he didn't actually say? What if those thoughts of judgment and accusation aren't actually from God and you've been believing it as a lie this whole time? But if you do believe that God has called you his own, he knows you, he loves you, he accepts you, then what is stopping you from believing it? Who else? What else? Where else do you not get to be, to do, to be a part of, to connect with, to serve? Because you're so focused on hiding instead of shining. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you would like more information about opportunities for coaching or more help outside of the podcast, you can follow us at beyondthewalls.podcast on Instagram or check out our website, beyondthewallspodcast.com. Until next time, bye.